Working to contain fires raging in San Bernardino and Simi Valley.
And 150 horses are being evacuated to safety from the Easy Fire in Simi Valley. I'm Chris Cheshire.
And I'm Genevieve Glass. See It Live starts now. Thousands of firefighters are battling flames across California tonight.
One of these fires is the Getty Fire in West LA. Annenberg Media's Chase Beach is there live with more on residents who were evacuated. Chase?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm up here at the top of Tiger Tail. As you can see behind me, some of the houses up here, their multi-million-dollar homes have been completely devastated. This one behind me is essentially just ash. You can still smell the burning coming off of this house. All that's left is this stone facade, really, and there are walls that are hanging on by what looks like a thin thread. So there's a lot of devastation here. A lot of these homes have been blocked off by yellow tape. No one is allowed up here. We actually had to be escorted up here tonight by the fire department, so no residents are allowed up Tiger Tail, even still. But earlier today, I did get to speak with a couple people who were able to come back and collect a few belongings, and they told me a bit about what this devastating fire has been like for them. Almost all residents who evacuated during the Getty fire have returned home to Brentwood. But residents of this street, Tiger Tail, are still not allowed to move back.
Starting to repopulate, they're just not doing it here because this is one of the more active areas of the fire. We need to make sure those hot spots are out. We have a cold fire front so that it's safe to repopulate.
After 3 days battling the Getty fire, homes and residential streets are opening back up. People along this road, Tiger Tail Lane, are coming home to discover whether or not their homes and their property are still intact. This was one of the worst hit streets during the fire, and some homes are completely safe while others have turned to ash and rubble. Residents on Tiger Tail, including LeBron James, were evacuated early Monday morning.
We woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday. We've smelled the smoke. And I rushed out, walked up at the studio terrace, looked around and saw the blaze. I didn't see the fire, but I saw the red and smoke, and we heard helicopters. And I ran back to the family, and we packed, and we didn't take much, and we just ran out and got the 2 cars, 2 kids, and left.
Other residents, like Ethel Pass, did not evacuate and saw the firefighters in action.
We live down in the 700 block, which was miraculously unscathed. We did not heed the mandatory evacuation, and we were witness to the most amazing air attack on this fire that went on for a good 48 hours with helicopters every minute.
The firefighters have been on Tiger Tail since the early hours of Monday morning, working to ensure residents can come back to this street once it's safe.
We're doing good. I mean, we're out here and we're working hard.
So even though most of the Getty fire has been contained at this point, firefighters and first responders are still not letting anybody up here because, as you can kind of see, there's still a lot of wind going on up here. It's very high up on Tiger Tail, and the air is still extremely dry. It still smells like smoke, so there's still quite good conditions for fires to start. So officials are saying, no one come up this evening. We will keep you guys updated, but the fire is there's still potential for fire, so they're keeping everybody off of Tiger Tail. Back to you guys in the studio for Annenberg Media. I'm Chase Beach.
The Getty fire has many people worried about their homes and families, but it also raises another concern. What about the art? Annenberg's Haley Smith has more on what the Getty Center does to protect its multi-billion-dollar collection.
It's an eerie Halloween in Brentwood, and the iconic Getty Center remains closed for the 4th straight day. Despite mandatory evacuation orders for the surrounding neighborhood, Getty officials insist that the safest place for their $6.5 billion collection is inside the museum itself.
Getty's architecture and landscaping were designed with fire prevention in mind. The buildings themselves are made of highly fire-resistant stone, concrete, and protected steel.
The Getty calls the center, quote, a marvel of anti-fire engineering. In addition to its fortress-like construction, the museum's grounds are filled with drought-resistant landscaping. As for protecting the galleries themselves, no stone has been left unturned.
The galleries are separated. There are fire doors that seal off sections of the building so that it is, impossible for a fire to travel.
The building is so safe, in fact, that the Getty says firefighters used it as a home base during the fires.
As the California wildfires rage on, this precious collection of art will remain safe, thanks to some state-of-the-art design.
For Annenberg Media, I'm Haley Smith.
Now, moments ago, just at 6 p.m., mandatory evacuations were lifted for the Hillside fire. We'll have a little bit more for you on that later, but right now, down in Riverside, there are currently 2 fires burning. The Hill fire is almost entirely contained after burning more than 600 acres. Right next door, the 46 fire sparked early this morning. It's 15% contained and about half as big as the Hill fire. On the west side, as we saw earlier, evacuation orders have been reduced for the Getty fire, which officials say is now 30% contained. But up in Simi Valley, the Easy fire has exploded to more than 1,700 acres. The fire is still only 10% contained, but a little bit of good news. All mandatory evacuation orders were lifted early this afternoon. Now, back to that Hillside fire we saw earlier. The fast-moving fire in San Bernardino burned into a residential neighborhood early this morning. Fierce Santa Ana winds pushed the flames down a hill and started tearing into houses. The fire was sparked at about 2 a.m. More than 1,000 residents were forced out of their homes in a mandatory evacuation. 6 of those homes burned to the ground. The fire grew as large as 200 acres, but thankfully, firefighters are gaining control of the flames. As of this afternoon, the fire is 50% contained. The cause is under investigation.
Firefighters in Simi Valley are still battling the Easy fire. The fire has burned through 1,700 acres so far. This wind-driven fire is only 10% contained and is threatening over 7,000 structures. So far, 2 structures have been destroyed and thousands of people are still under mandatory evacuation. Areas west of Madera Road, north of Olson Road, east of Highway 23, and south of Highway 18 all remain on high fire watch. Still no word on what caused this fire. And while some evacuees had to pack up their belongings, others had to pack up their horses. Annenberg Media's Nancy Guan shows us where nearly 150 horses are being cared for.
Horse owners, volunteers, and others raced to save the animals from danger. During one rescue mission, a gripping moment was captured of a horse going back into the fire to make sure its family was safe.
I'm here at the Ventura County Fairgrounds, where they are sheltering the horses that escaped from the Easy fire in Simi Valley. The animals are recuperating in stables and getting proper food, water, and care from their owners and volunteers.
So my daughter has a horse at Fieldstone and rides with Michelle and Zoe Pacina, and they had to evacuate from that facility due to smoke and the fire possibly, which it did end up jumping, but they left early enough to not have a huge panic.
While some were able to evacuate before the fires reached them, owners at CB Ranch battled flames around them as they rescued their horses.
The emotions haven't fully set in yet, but I'm to people I don't even know that had their hands in it and helped. And they're just so special, and seeing people come together like this, and it's really touching.
The 145 horses being housed at the fairgrounds did not sustain any major injuries. Although most horses were evacuated safely, some owners had to let theirs loose. Animal control officers say if that's the only choice, there's one thing they should do.
Situation where you can't get the horse on the trailer, there's no trailer available, make sure you have that contact information somewhere on the body of the horse. So if it eventually comes into a shelter or humane society, that we are able to contact the owner.
The Ventura County Animal Services will continue to provide care for these 4-legged evacuees and their owners for as long as they need it. For Annenberg Media, I'm Nancy Guan.
Thousands of firefighters have been on the front lines all week. LA Fire Department Battalion Chief Kenny Miller reminds us of the dangers first responders face.
Over those 30 years, I've seen a dramatic increase in these wildland fires, they call them, or brush fires. So many examples over the years of firefighters dying in these wildland fires. And the way I look at it is, no tree is worth dying over. You know what I mean? No amount of land that's going to get burned is worth a firefighter's life. So the number one thing that I'm thinking about is taking care of those 21 people that I'm with, to make sure that we can do our job safely. I'm always watching them, and they're staying hydrated out there, and they're doing a good job.
Despite safety efforts, firefighters' loved ones can't help but worry.
He's been deployed to fires many times over the years, and it's not surprising if he's gone sometimes 4, 5, 6 days. You know, that's a challenge, just as a mom navigating a family kind of by yourself, you know, while they're gone. And then as the kids get older and they're, you know, wanting their dad, and I'm explaining to them he's at work, you know, and they'd ask, when's he going to be home? And I'd say, I don't know.
The Millers remind us that firefighters risk their lives every single day to protect people and property.
And while the wildfires have been destructive and deadly, the smoke from the fires is raising serious health concerns. Wildfires produce huge amounts of smoke and particulate matter, which can lead to flu-like symptoms like runny nose, dry eyes, or scratchy throat. Experts say that the air pollution can actually be much more dangerous than when it meets the eye.
If you are exposed to a level of, if the scientific number, micrograms per cubic meter, is 22, and you breathe that for a day, that's like smoking 1 cigarette. You breathe it for 2 days, that's 2 cigarettes. When you smoke 1 cigarette, your chance of dying are 1 in a million from that cigarette. But if you have 1 million people, then 1 person will die, on average.
When you have air pollution, wildfires, that you're not getting that oxygen delivered to many important parts of the body. So you don't have a law of reserve when you have pre-existing heart and lung disease.
To stay safe, experts recommend keeping doors and windows closed and using air conditioning to recirculate the air. You should avoid outdoor exercise and wear a mask if you have to stay outside for an extended period of time.
Many environmental experts say climate change is helping fuel the fires devouring parts of California. According to an environmental website, Carbon Brief, the worst fires and highest temperatures have occurred in the last 15 years. And once the fires start, they too contribute to global warming.
It is affecting climate change in that, you know, there is an increase in CO2 emissions, and there is also increases of black carbon emissions. And so these are 2 species that are, you know, for the most part, you know, they tend to warm up the atmosphere. So in that regard, wildfires, they do also affect climate change as well. I mean, they do contribute to the warming of the atmosphere.
It's not just climate change that is making fires more destructive. More people are now living in forested areas, putting themselves and firefighters directly in harm's way.
PG&E's latest round of power outages is affecting over 700,000 customers in northern and central California. 53,000 households and businesses still remain without power. The Pacific Gas and Electric Company provides most of California with natural gas and electricity. It filed for bankruptcy earlier this year and has been blamed for many wildfires in the past decade. Californians were outraged at PG&E's preemptive outages, which cut power to nearly 1 million customers, often without warning. Although the company admitted it didn't execute that decision well, they promised to be, quote, better prepared than they were this time. Gavin Newsom is pressuring PG&E to fix their problems fast.
The blackouts are our top priority right now, and that's what this major investigation at the Public Utilities Commission is all about, making sure that we get under the hood so we don't have the scale of blackouts that we're experiencing, and we don't have the damn excuses and this mindset that's been advanced by PG&E that suggests that it's going to take 10 years. It cannot, to get their act together.
Swedish teenager Greta Thunberg has reignited the climate change movement worldwide. Thunberg fired a call to action at the United Nations Climate Action Summit. The youth activist is even turning down an environmental prize for her part, from her part of the world. Thunberg posted on Instagram that she will not accept the 2019 Nordic Council Environment Prize until Nordic countries take action to combat climate change. The passionate activist is leading the Los Angeles climate strike tomorrow at LA City Hall from noon to 4. Thunberg and youth leaders will demand Governor Gavin Newsom halt fossil fuel projects. In the meantime, we're going to keep a close watch on the fires in California and keep you updated.
How are you holding up, Chris? I heard your family was evacuated earlier this week.
You know, we were lucky in that we were back in our house now. All the pets were a little freaked out, but we didn't get affected by any of the fire. You know, we've been under evacuation standby or notice in a lot of past fires, and we've never actually had to evacuate before. So it was a scary couple of days, but everything's fine now thanks to the great work done by those firefighters over at the Getty fire.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And thank you all for watching See It Live. From everybody here at Annenberg Media, I'm Genevieve Glass.
And I'm Chris Cheshire. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com.